Hello, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Todd Wetter, Battalion Chief for Clay Fire. Today, we're going to be looking at a risk within our department that we have identified through our community risk reduction program. So just kind of a little background on what exactly the community risk reduction is. That's a concept that identifies and prioritizes risk within our community. Based off of these risks, then we can assign different strategies and tactics to address those risks and try to mitigate them as best we can. It's generally done using the 5 E's, which stand for education, engineering, enforcement, economic incentives, and emergency response. After that, then we want to try to prepare our plan. With that, what we're trying to do is examine our strategy to begin to outline some of our goals, our benchmarks, kind of our time frames that we're looking to put this into play, and then implementing the plan itself. And then once the plan is in place, then we want to do a good job of monitoring that plan, kind of reevaluating it throughout, especially in the beginning, and then modify the plan as needed. Some examples of the type of data that we use to come up with this or to identify these risks are just the demographics, which is the human population, things like age, race, sex, those kinds of things. Our geography, building stock, public safety response agencies, so other emergency responders that we work with, community service organizations, hazards, economic factors, past loss and event history, and critical infrastructure systems. So in the case that we are looking at, primarily what we used to identify that risk was demographics and past loss and event history. The case that we're looking at stems out of in the last 2 years, we've had two fatal house fires within our response area. Both of these were the result of cooking incidents, and both of them were elderly victims that lived by themselves. They both had mobility issues and became overcome by smoke and flames trying to exit buildings. According to the United States Fire Administration, cooking fires occur an estimated 187,500 times each year across this country. That resulted in 165 deaths, 3,325 injuries, and more than 444 million in property damage costs. They also report that 40% of all fires are cooking related. Within our response area is made up of 3 separate townships. Excuse me. Of those townships, German Township has the largest population that is 65 and over. We have 11.7 in the age group of 65 to 74. Goes down a little bit when you get to 75 to 84 at 7.5%. And 4% of our population is above the age of 85 in German Township. Those numbers go down when you get into Clay Township, and Harris Township is significantly lower. We start seeing only about 7 to 8% of our population is above 80 or 65% or 65 years old to 74. And it goes down to 4% when you get to 75 to 84. And only slightly above 1% is over 85 years old. So really our focus is in those townships, or the townships of German and Clay, and kind of along the borderline of the two. We estimate that the biggest loss that we received in these two situations obviously is the loss of life. Being the biggest problem with our losses for kitchen fire or cooking fires. But cooking fires also have cost over $500,000 in property loss within our fire territory over the past year. So what are we going to do to try to mitigate this problem? Well, the department would like to seek out grants and funding, also donations, to help us install smoke detectors and CO alarms into houses that have elderly occupants. We also want to look into installing automatic extinguishing devices such as the stovetop hood fire stop devices, which are small cans of extinguishing agent that open up when they get hot on stovetops. We also want to look at opportunities to educate some of our seniors within the community, find venues that we can present a program to them. Also preparing pamphlets and handouts with safety information concerning seniors within our community. So looking at the cost of what it would take to do this, obviously smoke detectors and CO alarms are relatively not inexpensive. The hood extinguishing canisters are $35 a unit. So if we're looking at what we'd like to have is 300 units or 300 houses within our elderly community that we go and address these problems, we're looking at an investment of about $11,000. Compared to the $500,000 in fire loss and the loss of life that you really can't put a price on, financially it makes sense. That's all I have. Thank you for your time.